With the announcement of Shenmue 3, fans are finally getting what they asked for 14 years ago. But other gamers are now wondering, why Shenmue? What makes this series so great? Well, for starters, it was the game that pretty much defined open world, and till this day remains the best in the genre. Now, I know a lot of you will disagree and say that GTA and Just Cause are way better examples of open world games, but hear me out. Despite its age, let me tell you why Shenmue is the best open world game I've ever played. For starters, the pacing is beautiful. The game starts days after your father's death and you embark on a quest to find his killer. You start off by asking local neighbors if they could identify a black car, and eventually move on to the market to get more information, and the story pretty much goes on from there. Eventually taking you to places such as Japan's harbor, the Hong Kong underworld, and even deeper into China. The game's motivation comes from Ryu and his determination, not some overseer voice or mission objective commander telling you what to do next. Instead, you learn about what to do next naturally by asking people. Sometimes it's as easy as finding the next person to talk to, or getting involved in a bar fight to get more information. For example, in Shenmue 2, your wallet gets stolen and you need to find money to survive. You can get involved in arm wrestling, lifting crates, and even gambling. It's dynamic and doesn't make you know what will come next. Even from a gameplay perspective, the game starts off only by getting information and then slowly introduces the QTE and finally getting involved with combat. In fact, this is how most of Shenmue's system works. Get info, practice, execute. While many players criticize the game for introducing QTE, the bigger battles happen with real-time combat using the Virtua Fighter engine, which is arguably the best fighting engine ever made. Now, when compared to other open world games, you're usually given a world map, a marker, and an objective. It's easy and simple, but it removes the charm of exploring the world you're in. Of course, you can't really blame developers since those worlds are ridiculously huge, and believe it or not, that's one of the reasons I don't like other open world games. They force you to use vehicles and end up wasting so many assets on things that will probably never be explored or utilized properly. Instead, they serve as a means to sell the product on scale. At least, that's how I look at it. Which brings me to my next point, interaction. The world of Shenmue may not appear big in scale, but in detail. For example, when entering your house, you can open your drawers, discover a cassette tape, pull out your old video game console, open the fridge. There's so many things you can interact with. When looking at the cherry blossom tree, for example, you trigger a memory cutscene that reminds you of your father. When visiting your father's room, you pray and hope his soul is resting in peace. You can also go to the arcade and play some cool Sega classics if you want to kill time. Even the smallest details, such as obtaining capsules, left a lasting impression. Now, when I finished GTA 5 and Watch Dogs, I don't remember having that level of interaction. I don't even remember the places I visited or the people I interacted with. Only some cool missions involving a helicopter and a bank robbery, I guess. But those games end up turning the world into more of a playground than a living, breathing place. Shenmue forces you to walk and explore the world you're in and familiarize yourself with its surrounding, not only by looking at it, but by interacting with it. You learn about the characters, about the locations you're in. One instance in Shenmue 2, I was lost and I asked a local random NPC to help me find the place I'm looking for. He actually guided me and I followed him. That's amazing, and I've honestly never experienced that with any other open world game before. Finally, and probably the biggest reason, is culture. Besides making you feel the character, you actually feel like you're in Japan. From the music to getting a job to roaming around your house, the attention to detail and animation is just stunning, especially for its time period. Even with time, going out at night, you notice more street thugs show up and some drunk people. I remember when it became close to Christmas, the game started showing me more people dressed up as Santa Claus. By the way, the weather in the game is actually based off real 80s weather data that happened during that time period. And when I visited Hong Kong, I really felt like a foreigner. From the way they talked to me to getting an apartment, I felt alienated. But I think the biggest impression I got was towards the end of Shenmue 2 when I met Shenhua in Guilin, China. She started asking me about city life. Because she's so disconnected with the outside world, things like final exam or getting a decent salary don't make much sense to her. In return, she showed me things like how the river in Guilin changes color depending on the time of day, which actually turned out to be true. It's amusing and charming, but that's what makes Shenmue so special. The pacing, the interaction, the culture, and of course the story, characters, and attention to detail bring this world to life like no other open world game. I mean, every time the sun sets, the game pauses just to show you this. It may not be for everyone, but if you want to experience an open world game that begs you to explore its world rather than treat it like a playground, I highly encourage you to check out both Shenmue 1 and 2. Even if you're not into open world games, Shenmue should definitely keep you hooked with its captivating narrative and characters. Thanks for watching this video. I just want to give a big shout out to Dreamcast Tube. They did an amazing video showing Shenmue in HD. Unfortunately, it's only running on an emulator, but I hope Sega releases Shenmue 1 and 2 in HD so we can all check it out, and rather than buying a Dreamcast or using an emulator. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe. With you is Rashid the Arab Gamer, gaming from the Arab world. Ya Aziz.